Respected dignitaries from ISA, my fellow anesthesia colleagues, good evening, everybody. My presentation is titled as Financial Independence for the Anesthesiologist. About me, the details are shared with you. I write on my blog about personal finance, rkhgajjar.wordpress.com. Let me make one thing very clear. I have no business or advisory or commercial or professional interests involved in this blog. This is not my alternate profession. This is my passion. The blog is totally free to me and is free to you to explore, read, and share. I write on my blog only and only for my own pure personal pleasure. I start with the words of J.L. Collins about financial independence. Understanding money is critical. If you choose to master it, money becomes a wonderful servant. If you do not, it will surely master you. Money can buy many things, none of which is more important than your financial independence. Dear colleagues, this presentation is an attempt to guide you with the money management skills and concepts and help you reach stage of financial independence as early as possible. I'll answer 3 questions. What is financial independence? How to achieve it? And when one is defined as financially independent person. To accumulate adequate enough corpus, which is invested across the asset classes, but mainly in the financial assets that grows at sufficient rate of 10% plus, which permit withdrawal at reasonable rates of 3 to 5%, which fulfills one's livelihood and lifestyle expenses for lifetime, is a stage of financial independence. Accumulate the assets, invest across the debt and equity, let it grow at a rate of 10%, withdraw at a rate of 3 to 5%, that is financial independence. Compulsion to work is gone, choice to work is on, one becomes one's own boss. There is no boss to dictate the terms of work, that is financial independence. How to achieve it? Do not first. One does not have to do so many right things, so far as one avoids doing a few things wrong. Do not avoid equity investments in totality. Equity exposure is must. Do not depend only on the fixed income products. They will never make you rich or wealthy. Henceforth, in my presentation about do nots, I will focus mainly on loans and liabilities management. Because in early years of career, if loans and liabilities are not properly managed, the heavy burden of EMI definitely reduces the quantum of investable surplus every month. And this reduction in the investable surplus definitely delays the stage of financial independence. When one compares the cost of delaying financial independence, the cost is huge as compared to whatever gains, pleasures, or happiness that are derived out of impulsive and unplanned expenses in early years of career. So, dear colleagues, be very careful with loans and liabilities in early years of career. Do not opt for any type of loan if one is not prepared to put forward 20% as down payment. Do not exceed 36% of the monthly earnings for the overall limit for all loan payments. 2 assets are big in early years of career to buy. One is the home. Home should not cost more than 30 months of monthly earnings. If 2 lakhs is the monthly earning, the house should cost around 60 lakhs and you should be able to pay 20%, that is 12 lakhs rupees as a down payment and go for a loan of only 48 lakhs. Another big asset, car. Do not bypass the 20 by 4 by 10% rule. Again, 20% down payment is compulsory, mandatory. 4 years loan tenure is limit, lesser the better. The car loan EMI, the fuel, the insurance, and the maintenance expenses must not exceed 10% of the annual income. Annual income is 20 lakhs. The car expenses should be restricted to 2 lakhs. The most important, do not develop the income tax evasion mentality. Be ready to pay the due tax in end. Dear colleagues, I do recommend that you explore, you exploit, and you exhaust all legal and legitimate means to save the tax. Do perfect and prudent tax planning. Save as much tax as you can. But in the end, be ready to pay the due tax. Financial independence demand financial assets, and financial assets demand accounted funds. Unaccounted funds will never make you financially independent. That completes do nots. Do's next. Pay yourself first from your 100% earnings in following proportion. 16% to the retirement funds, 14% for the kids, 10% for the assets, big ticket, costly white goods or accumulating payment, down payment corpus, 10% for parties, picnics, vacations, domestic, international, such experiences. So this totals of 50%. So out of your 100 earnings, pay 50% first for yourself in following proportion. And the rest 50% is for expenses, including EMI. Emergency funds, pure term life insurance, health insurance, and general insurance, including personal accident insurance, is first and must. The do's. Start as early as possible, even though if it is a small amount. It is the action that is more important. Mere knowledge serves no purpose. Always aim to raise the investment amount year on year, minimum 6%, preferably 10 to 20%. Dear colleagues, it is not the quantum of investment, but it is the consistency of investment and the consistency to raise it year on year that will reach you to the stage of financial independence as early as possible. I have identified the asset classes with an acronym, GREAT. G for gold, R for real estate, E for equity, and D for debt. In personal finance and in our pursuit to financial independence, two concepts were very important. The first is goal-based investing. Whatever investment you do must have a goal assigned to it. It may be retirement, kids' education, assets, experiences, financial independence, but it must have a goal assigned to it. And all the investments must fit into your overall investment and assets allocation strategy. And each particular goal and its investments must fit into its own assets allocation strategy so that the particular goal is realized. So goal-based investing and its aligned assets allocation strategy is very crucial. Gold, sovereign gold bond is the best option. Restrict the gold asset allocation to 5 to 10% of the overall assets. It is more for hedging or stability of the portfolio rather than as a wealth generation tool. Real estate as investment. Avoid it till you accumulate significant and sizable financial assets in equity and debt products. Do appreciate all the drawbacks of the real estate as investment very well, namely big ticket expenses, poor liquidity, land encroachment issues, maintenance issues, tenancy issues. Be very clear about the issues. Avoid being real estate rich and liquidity or cash flow. Financial independence demands significant, sizable, and enough liquidity. Restrict the real estate investment to 10 to 20% of the overall portfolio. Now, a few words about residential house. Residential house is not real estate investment. It is not an asset. It is a liability. At the base, it is a consumption asset. So accrue it in your balance sheet as a portfolio as an asset. It may be an asset for your generation next if they do not occupy it and sell it. It is an asset for them, not for you. Equity is must, even in retired years. Can be of two types: direct equity through the limit holdings and sales, or indirect equity through exposure to the equity mutual funds. Equity exposure overall should be in a range of 40 to 50% or 60 to 70% as maximum. I feel 60% equity and 40% debt is optimal. There is a special session for direct equity, so I'll focus on indirect equity through equity mutual funds. The categories that you should explore and invest in your lifetime for your equity exposure in mutual funds are only three. The first is index funds, next is aggressive hybrid funds, and last is flexi cap funds. These categories are more than enough to invest for equity mutual funds for your entire life. More important is doing rebalancing at the market tops and bottoms when one's assets allocation strategy is significantly better. This is rebalancing is mandatory. I'll explain. Suppose if we start with a 50% equity and 50% debt exposure, market moves upwards, equity rises to 60%, 70%, 80%. This is the time to redeem the equity, shift the profits to the debt component, and bring it back from 60, 70, or 80 to back to 50%. It may happen otherwise also. Markets may move downwards. the equity component may drop to 20 or 30%. This is the time to redeem the debt component and bring back the proceeds into equity component and raise it to the 50%. This is an attempt to book the notional gains to the real gains at the tops and not to miss the opportunity to buy at the bottoms of the equity markets. In equity, dear colleagues, buy from the paniac. That is a panicky person who is ready to sell at any and throwaway prices, and sell it to a maniac. That is a maniac person who is ready to buy anything and everything, even at sky high prices. Debt is equally essential for rebalancing. It should be 30 to 40% minimum and 50% to maximum. As recently the cost inflation indexes and benefits to the debt funds are taken up, I recommend equity savings scheme category, that is EQSS, with debt product features and favorable equity tax benefits as a choice. Alternative is short debt term funds if your debt product is the choice. The take home message so far is you must have significant and sizable exposure to both the asset classes, that is equity and debt. And you must carry out efficient rebalancing between the equity and debt as per your strategic assets allocation strategy discussed so far. Out of your all earnings and in all your earning years, this is the take home message. This is the way to reach the stage of financial independence as early as possible. Now the last question, when one is defined as financially independent person? I'll answer this question for two extremes of age. I'll answer the question in multiples of monthly expenses. The reason is in personal finance, it is the figure of monthly expenses that is most important and is used in all strategic financial planning and all calculations. So for a person age 30 who has all milestones in life to fulfill, namely house purchase, car purchase, kids education, car purchase, everything is left. He needs 1,032 times his monthly expenses as on date, plus his all outstanding liabilities as on date, to be defined as financially independent as on date. In simple words, if his monthly expenses are 100K, that is 1 lakh rupees, he needs 10.32 CR plus his outstanding liabilities as on date to be defined as financially independent for this monthly expense figure of 100. Obviously, as the monthly expenses figure will change every few years, financial independence corpus will also change accordingly. So you need to change it or follow it accordingly. You can replace your own monthly expenses figures, which must be genuine, rational, and reasonable, multiplied with the 1,032. That is the figure of the financial independence corpus that you must try to reach. Another extreme, a person at age 60 with zero liabilities, he needs 522 times his monthly expenses. Dear colleagues, be very clear. At age 60 and above, you must have zero liabilities. So for a person aged 60 with 100K expenses, he needs 5.22 CR to be defined as financially independent. Dear colleagues, these figures are not a guesswork. I have explained it as per the personal finance based scientific logic and reasoning on my blog in 2 articles. How much wealth is enough, part 1 and part 2. I have shared with you the links for these articles. To explain the logics and reasonings behind these numbers, formulas and figures, I need minimum 3 hours plus time. So dear colleagues, do visit the blog, do read these articles, and do appreciate the logics and reasonings behind these numbers, formulas, and figures. The last question, is financial independence achievable? It is definitely achievable. Develop PDF mindset. P for patience. Let your investments compound over decades altogether. Have immense and lots of patience. Dear colleagues, pursuit of the financial independence is not a 2020 match, nor a one-day match, nor even a 5-day test match. It is a full-fledged, life-size, lifetime innings. So have lots of patience. Also need discipline and dedication to achieve the financial independence, and have firm faith in the positive outcomes. It is the firm faith which will drive you to develop the discipline and dedication and will lead you to immense and lots of patience for financial independence. To end my presentation, dear colleagues, we always overestimate our strength and abilities to change the others. And we always underestimate our strength and abilities to change ourselves. So change what you can change the base, that is yourself. Forget about surgeon colleagues, forget about anesthesia colleagues, forget about anesthesia society. Change what you can change the base, that is yourself. This is the biggest and the best job to do in the life. Dear colleagues, change is not a chance, it is a choice. Make a choice to be financially independent. I thank you all once again for your kind attention to my words. Dear colleagues, life has a definite purpose to achieve. Financial independence is the first and spiritual independence the next. Do visit my blog rkhgajjar.wordpress.com. Whatever pains and efforts I have taken to express my understandings in personal finance on this blog, if in one way or the other it can be helpful to my fellow anesthesia colleagues in their journey to financial independence, it will be a matter of immense pleasure for me. I thank once again all of you, specifically the PPF section of the Indian Society of Anesthesia, to allow me to express my understandings in personal finance. I thank you all once again. That completes my presentation.